So, is an ancient rain god actually still influencing modern global elites? I mean, it sounds exactly like the plot of a Hollywood thriller, right? A shadowy global elite, hidden forest rituals, and an ancient deity demanding sacrifice. But the source material we're digging into today presents this incredibly fascinating and honestly pretty chilling historical narrative that attempts to draw exactly that line.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're taking a completely impartial deep dive into the evolution of Baal. We're going to rely strictly on the provided source material to trace how an ancient storm god somehow transformed into a symbol of ultimate dark power. Plus, we'll look at the alleged modern echoes of this ancient cult. I am absolutely fascinated to unpack this dark and complex history with you.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for the explainer today. We'll start with from storm god to idol, move into the darkest rituals, cover the clash of prophets against the cult, examine exile and the occult, look at claims of secret societies and elites, and then finish the whole thing up with the enduring temptation.
Section 1. From storm god to idol, the rise of Hadad.
To really wrap our heads around this, our source takes us way back to 2300 BC. Down in the river-based civilization of Mesopotamia, this storm god known as Hadad, well, he actually wasn't the main focus of worship. And the reason for that is pretty simple. The great rivers provided all the water they needed to survive. But as humanity started migrating west into the Levant around 1200 BC, the survival dynamics changed completely. Out there, agriculture depended entirely on unpredictable rain falling from the sky. No rain meant failed crops, which literally meant starvation. The source explains that this intense existential fear of famine elevated Hadad to supreme importance. People started giving him a title, Baal, which simply meant master or lord. And over time, that title just completely overtook his original identity. By 800 BC, Phoenician traders, driven by commerce, were spreading this fear-based religion across the entire Mediterranean via their massive trade routes.
Section 2. The darkest rituals, the Tophet sacrifices.
Now, this historical shift from relying on seasonal rain to a state of absolute agricultural desperation, it leads us to the source's darkest revelation. The text introduces us to the Tophet. This was a sacred place, notably found in the valley of Ben Hinnom and the city of Carthage, where children were sacrificed by fire to appease these ancient gods. Just imagine the sheer level of fear required to sustain a practice like that. And look, this wasn't just a myth. The archaeological evidence cited in the texts is deeply unsettling. Back in 1922 in Carthage, and later in 1947 in Tunisia, researchers discovered these massive, multi-layered burial complexes. Inside, they found the burned bones of babies and small animals. The source notes that researchers actually concluded this horrifying practice continued without interruption for 8 entire centuries. That is just mind-blowing.
Consider this incredibly chilling historical detail from the Roman writer Plutarch, which is mentioned in the text. Mothers would stand there without shedding a single tear. Now, why on earth would they do that? Well, because, as the source points out, the sacrifice had to be given willingly for the ritual to actually work. Tears would invalidate the offering. That meant the mother would lose her payment and the child would still be sacrificed anyway. It's a staggering testament to what human fear, driven by pure agricultural dependence, can literally drive societies to do when they believe their very survival is on the line.
Section 3. Prophets against the cult, the showdown on Mount Carmel.
So, by the 9th century BC, during the reign of King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, a massive ideological conflict erupted. On one side, you got the concept of pure monotheism, this belief in an absolute creator who isn't manipulated by human rituals or transactional offerings. Then, on the flip side, you have this system of idolatry, which the source frames as being born purely from human fear and that desperate need to control the harvest. This wasn't just a casual religious choice for these ancient people. It was viewed as a strict, transactional system of survival and earthly power that actively opposed the prophetic teachings of the time.
This whole ideological war culminates in a dramatic showdown detailed in the source texts. The prophet Elias, or Elijah, calls for a devastating 3-year drought. He's essentially trying to prove to the people that Baal doesn't control the rain at all. Then, he gathers 450 of Queen Jezebel's Baal priests on Mount Carmel for an epic showdown. The texts describe this really frantic scene. The priests are shouting, dancing, cutting themselves all day long, just trying to wake their god up to light a sacrificial fire. But nothing happens, just total silence. Then Elijah steps forward, says a short, calm prayer, and fire comes pouring down from the sky, proving the true creator. The source emphasizes a brilliant irony here.
Baal, the supposed god of lightning and storms, couldn't produce a single drop of rain or even a tiny spark of fire when publicly challenged.
Section 4. Exile and the Occult, Babylon and Demonization.
Following the destruction of Jerusalem in 586 BC, the ancient narrative shifts radically. During the resulting Babylonian exile, the source claims something fascinating happened. The exiled people were exposed to Chaldean occultism. We're talking deep systems of magic, astrology, and hidden knowledge in Babylon. According to the texts, this Babylonian magic mixed with some branches of exiled theology to form early occult traditions. The source explicitly argues that this heavily influenced the development of a complex branch of Jewish mysticism known as Kabbalah. Though it's really vital to note here that this is the specific lens of our source material. What this shift did was effectively move the worship from public agricultural arenas into secret, hidden rituals reserved for a chosen few.
We see this shift perfectly encapsulated in John Milton's 1667 epic Paradise Lost. He describes it as pandemonium, the council of all demons. Over the centuries, literature and theology had completely demonized the ancient deity. Baal was transformed from an agricultural god into Beelzebub, becoming this collective symbol for all dark forces. So he went from being a false idol that supposedly controlled the weather to being actively categorized as a powerful demonic entity in Western texts and demonology.
Section 5. Secret Societies and Elites, Echoes in the Modern World.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it brings us right into the modern era, exploring the source's most controversial claims that link these ancient power dynamics to today. The text draws detailed, impartial parallels to the Bohemian Grove gatherings. This is a real documented place in a Northern California forest where powerful global elites, we're talking presidents, CEOs, media figures, they meet privately every July. In the center of this camp, they have a 15-meter stone owl statue, and they perform a highly theatrical fire ritual called the cremation of care. The source isn't claiming they're literally sacrificing humans, but it does point out the eerie structural similarities to the ancient cults: extreme secrecy, exclusivity, and a symbolic sacrifice to leave behind conscience and worldly worry in the pursuit of power.
Just to highlight how secretive and honestly highly unusual this gathering truly is, the source provides a documented quote from former U.S. President Richard Nixon. Recorded on tape in 1971, Nixon bluntly calls the Grove the most homosexual and strange thing you can imagine, and yet, despite saying this privately, he still attended the gatherings for years. The quote perfectly emphasizes the highly protected, strange, and elite nature of these meetings where the most powerful people on Earth engage in bizarre private rituals.
The source also dives into the Epstein files. Now, before addressing the source's claims here, we have to be absolutely clear. The horrific exploitation and abuse of minors in the Epstein case is a proven, devastating reality that cannot be understated. Building off this dark reality, the source points to unverified claims of a Baal.name account linked to financial transfers, and notes that strange temple-like structure with a golden dome on his private island, Little St. James. Now, the specific ritualistic connections to an ancient Baal cult remain unverified speculation. However, the source uses this extreme example to highlight a repeating historical pattern: the horrific abuse of power, protected by silence, immense wealth, and catastrophic moral failure.
Section 6. The Enduring Temptation, Power, Sacrifice, and the Future. The source makes a profound and really powerful parallel here, one that bridges thousands of years of human history. In the ancient world, people literally sacrificed their own children in the physical fires of the Tophet, all to appease an idol for agricultural wealth and basic survival. In the modern world, the source suggests a much broader metaphorical parallel. We sacrifice conscience, care, and even our youth in devastating modern wars simply for political power and elite influence. While the physical forms of the ritual have certainly changed, the structural temptation remains. The impulse to sacrifice the innocent for worldly power and influence is, according to the source, exactly the same today as it was 3,000 years ago. So what does this all mean? Are we still sacrificing our ethics and our future for the illusion of power? It's a profound question derived directly from our source material, and it echoes all the way from the ancient dusty ruins of Carthage to the secret redwood forests of today. I really hope this explainer helps structure these fascinating historical connections for you. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and remember, keep questioning everything.